This is Future Proof, the show that packs your brain for the future. Your hosts are Robbie and Terry, both 15 years old. Every week, they argue about the jobs, the technology, and the big ideas headed our way. So you're ready before they get here.
Welcome back to Future Proof, the show that packs your brain for the future. I'm Terry.
And I'm Robbie, and today we're asking the question that sounds like science fiction but really isn't. Should we be editing the genes of babies before they're even born?
We're talking CRISPR designer babies and the very uncomfortable question of where science ends and playing God begins.
CRISPR is basically molecular scissors. It can snip out a piece of DNA and replace it with accuracy that was completely impossible even 20 years ago.
Scientists used it in 2018 to edit human embryos for the first time, which sounds amazing until you realize the researcher got sentenced to prison for it.
Right? Because we can, and we should, are two very different conversations, and that gap is exactly where today's episode lives.
Let's start with the optimistic case because there is a genuinely powerful one. Over 10,000 diseases are caused by a single faulty gene.
Things like cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, Huntington's disease, conditions that cause real suffering, and that a single genetic edit could potentially eliminate forever.
If you could spare a child a lifetime of painful medical procedures with one tiny molecular fix, why wouldn't you?
That's the argument. And honestly, it's hard to argue with when you put it that way, but here's where it gets complicated.
There's a massive difference between curing a disease and selecting for traits like height, intelligence, or eye color.
And the tech doesn't really care about that difference. Once the door is open for one, it's pretty hard to close it for the other.
Scientists estimate that traits like intelligence involve thousands of genes interacting in ways we barely understand. It's not one switch, it's a whole circuit board.
So anyone promising you a genius baby via gene editing is basically selling you a car and handing you a random pile of parts.
But the disease versus enhancement line is genuinely blurry. Is being short a disease? Is being deaf a disability or a cultural identity?
The deaf community actually has a lot to say about this, and their point is sharp. Selecting against deafness implies their lives are worth less.
That's not a fringe view either. It raises real questions about what we're saying when we decide which traits deserve to exist.
And then there's the access problem. Right now, in vitro fertilization costs tens of thousands of dollars in the United States alone.
Add gene editing on top, and you have a world where wealthy families can biologically upgrade their kids while everyone else just crosses their fingers.
That's not a slippery slope. That's basically the plot of the movie Gattaca, which came out in 1997 and is looking more like a documentary every year.
Some countries have already drawn hard lines. Most of Europe bans heritable gene editing entirely. China, meanwhile, is moving faster and with fewer restrictions.
Which means this isn't just a personal ethics question, it's a geopolitical one. Different countries are going to make different choices, and those choices interact.
So we could end up in a global race where the pressure to keep up pushes everyone toward editing whether they want to or not.
That's called a collective action problem. And humans have a truly spectacular track record of handling those badly.
Okay, but devil's advocate, isn't every generation already shaping the next one? We choose partners, we choose nutrition, we choose education.
Sure, but there's a difference between influence and writing someone's source code before they have any say in the matter.
The consent issue is huge. The edited child can never agree or disagree. They inherit decisions made before they took their first breath.
And edits made to embryos are heritable, meaning they pass to that person's children and their children's children, potentially forever.
So one scientist's experiment in 2020 whatever could ripple through a family line for centuries. That's a lot of responsibility to hand to one generation.
On the other hand, we already make permanent decisions for future people all the time. Climate change, national debt, future kids didn't vote on any of that.
Fair point, though. I feel like we already make irreversible decisions badly is a weird argument for making more of them.
Touche. So what's the actual path forward here? Because do nothing doesn't seem right either when kids are suffering from preventable genetic diseases.
Most bioethicists land somewhere in the middle, allow somatic editing, which only affects one person, for serious diseases, but ban heritable edits until we understand way more.
And build international agreements so this doesn't just become a race to the country with the loosest regulations and the fastest centrifuges.
The science is moving faster than the conversation, which is kind of future-proof's whole problem to solve one episode at a time.
Listeners, we want to know, where do you draw the line? Fixing a fatal disease? Yes or no? Selecting eye color? Yes or no?
Think about it, talk about it, and maybe read up on CRISPR because this debate is going to land in your actual lifetime, not some distant future.
The kids being born today might be the last generation edited by chance alone. What comes next is genuinely up to us, all of us.
That's either the most exciting or most terrifying sentence I've ever said on this show, and honestly, I think it might be both.
Both is right. Stay curious, stay critical, and stay in the conversation because the alternative is letting other people make these calls for you.
Thanks for listening to Future Proof. We'll be back next week with another topic that sounds like tomorrow but is already happening today.
Until then, keep your brain packed and your ethics sharp. See you next week on Future Proof.